Welcome to the 9/8 Central podcast, where we talk about growing a business, working in media, and building a team that we love. I'm Jen Blair, COO of 9/8 Central, and I'm here with Kyle Jewell, the social strategist at 9/8 Central.
Hey, Jen.
How's it going?
I'm good.
Awesome. So today we are talking about something that has been in the news a lot. And if you haven't heard about it, again, you're probably living under a rock. And honestly, by the time this releases, which is probably going to be in a week, hopefully that this news hasn't changed. But Elon Musk is buying Twitter, right? So, or allegedly buying Twitter. Yeah. Who knows? It's all being worked out. There's something about stocks, whatever. But allegedly he's buying Twitter. It's probably going to work out. And we feel like there are things that we need to talk about in terms of what that could mean for social marketers and digital marketers in general, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, it's big news. This is the first big change in leadership for any of the social platforms. Mm-hmm. Elon Musk buying it he's kind of doing this on a platform. There's a few things that he wants to change about the network itself. And like you said, we're here to talk about what it means for brands.
Yes.
So let's just go through the things that he's been harping on about Twitter, how he can make it better.
Right.
I think to start off, the open source algorithm. It's something that you and we talked about before we started recording this.
Yes.
We know what it means, but we don't know what it means.
So essentially that means that the code is available for people to use, to see, to manipulate, and to understand how it works. Okay. So most of the big social networks, they do not put their code or their source code or their algorithms out there for people to see. And there's probably a very good reason for it. Mm-hmm. You actually are the one who told me, we can look back to Reddit. Reddit was mm-hmm. open source in 2008, 2009, before they kind of took off and became a bigger business and ended up closing their source code at some point later on.
Yeah.
There's reasons for it, right?
Yeah. Having open source code, it's good for transparency. It sends a good message that everyone has a piece in this. AJ actually is our computer nerd. Shout out AJ. And he was telling us how there's limitations on where open source exists. Could be personalize your profile. It probably won't be the entire platform's algorithm. Right. You can't just go in and tweak
rock
their
code. Yeah.
But it increases transparency in the brand, which I think they're hoping will build some trust in the brand. But Reddit, it really struggled because they couldn't perform updates, much needed updates, add features that users wanted, and then kind of package them through a patch or an upgrade. It's because once you put it in there, it's public.
Yeah.
You can't. So they're really struggling to keep up with competitors.
Right. And exactly right. They couldn't really start deploying code or set their code up to do certain things. I think what I read was it was a big struggle with them with video marketing in particular, because people could see that, hey, they must be preparing to do something with video. And in the social space especially, it is so competitive to try to get active users on the platform, because those active users probably mean ad dollars for you. Yeah. And so it's hard to stay ahead of the competition when the competition can see what you're doing. And then on that note too, it probably shows how your posts get in front of people, right? So it opens up how that algorithm works. It opens up the secrets to popularity, which we have seen that develop over time in so many different ways, not just on social platforms, but also in search engines. Mm-hmm. Google had a big problem back in the early 2010s. There's the penguin and the panda algorithm. If anybody is into SEO or ever had to do anything with it back at that time, you probably knew about it because people understood how Google worked, or they learned how Google worked. They didn't necessarily couldn't see the code and couldn't see the algorithm, but they were able to learn how to manipulate it, right? And so those two updates to the search algorithm, it helped eliminate content farms. It helped eliminate poor linking because people realized linking is what made your site rank. Yeah. If your site's ranking, people are clicking on it, you can sell them ads, or you can have ad space and you're making money off of it. And it's the same with social media too. I mean, we've seen Facebook's algorithm change. We've seen Twitter's. We've seen Instagram's for a reason. And so if you're getting in front of people and you're getting those eyes, you're probably making money too.
Right.
So if that Twitter algorithm is open, what does that do?
Yeah.
Who's manipulating it?
Yeah. And then what does it look like for user experience? There's a lot of talk for Twitter to go back to the chronological feed as opposed to the current interest-based feed. I have a feeling it'll be up to the user to choose. Do you want chronological? Do you want the interest-based? Yeah, and I imagine the source code for chronological is a little bit simpler than the interest-based and a little bit less maybe problematic.
Yes.
But I think that's something we'll have to wait and see. This is just speculation right now.
Right. And, we were talking before this. We had like a really great episode before we started recording. You should have been there. But we were talking about how people kind of have this crusade about bringing back chronological feeds and how they are so attached to it. And if you think about it, social media was so different then, especially in terms of Instagram. People really miss that chronological feed, but there weren't many brands. Yeah. There weren't as many people. Yep. It was so much easier to just kind of see what you liked and who you followed. But now, like, imagine if your feed was chronological, you're probably just going to see a lot of brand content. Right. You're probably going to see not your friends and family. Yep. And that is what like Facebook and Instagram are prioritizing.
Yeah, and you nailed it earlier when you said that the algorithm was there. I mean, they've been improved upon and developed to get more eyes on platforms, to get more thumb scrolling, people spending more time on there. If you shift back to chronological, does that change usage? I would say yes, because since all these platforms have rolled out the interest-based algorithm, usage has gone through the roof. Yeah. So to roll it back like that could be a serious disadvantage for Twitter as a platform and for brands looking to spend time and money there too.
Yeah, absolutely. So another thing that Elon is wanting to get away with, and I think we can all agree with this, is bots and fake accounts. Yep. That does nothing but cause havoc, inflate numbers, skew polls, all those kinds of things.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that'll be a good, that's a welcome change. It's good. It's great for marketing, less white noise to compete with, more meaningful, authentic interactions with your following. So those, like you said, those numbers are going to be a little bit more true. And just less fluff too to have to deal with. I think that's a welcome change.
And we were talking about debating on whether or not we wanted to say, but he's talking about authenticating all the people. Yeah. Which I have mixed feelings about, only because I probably have PTSD from Facebook doing it. Anybody who has ever managed Facebook for a business or a brand knows the struggle, the heartache, the tears that come with trying to get access to Facebook accounts sometimes. And there's some instances where you need to send a picture of your driver's license to authenticate yourself. And it's not fun.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, because there's not a lot of information about what that would look like in terms of the actual authentication side. I'm sure once it's approved, you get a blue check, which would be sweet. Yeah. But yeah, it may spark concerns again. There was information privacy. I'm sending my license into Facebook. Yes. Like, do they need my address? Do they need my date of birth? Do they need to know how much I weigh?
Yeah, right.
So I'm curious to see how Twitter can do that without stepping on toes of people who are interested in that.
If anyone can do it, it's probably Elon, though.
Probably like a biometric scan.
Yeah. And I guess that's another thing that is kind of part of the topic, is that this is a guy who's used to going in and innovating with abandon, like just complete reckless abandon. And like, okay, we're going to do this thing. I've got a plan. We're going to make it happen. And so it'll be interesting to see maybe there's other technology that comes out of it that's not necessarily Twitter specific, but that could be used for other things too.
I mean, I would welcome that. I think that would change the game for other platforms too, for how they authenticate. And then maybe that's something that trickles down to Facebook and Instagram as well.
They love to copy
I know.
things.
And that reminded me too. So another change, this is less marketing side, I think, but I think it could flow down that way. You're putting in a new CEO now, right? And we talk a lot about culture and like team structure. Yeah. You're bringing in a new CEO who is known to be like, we're going to grind this out.
Yeah, like 80-hour work week kind of dude. Yeah.
That changes the culture of the development team. I mean, there might be a whole new team anyways. That's also speculation.
Yeah.
But the whole vibe around the platform could change completely just because of the organizational structure. Yeah. So a little bit of a side note, but something that
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Might be worth keeping an eye on too.
Well, because then that just so directly affects what the output is of your people, and that can change how things happen. I don't know.
Yeah. So. Okay, let's talk about content moderation. To me, this is the this is the big piece that Elon Musk wants to course correct is kind of how I would put it for his perspective. We're not going to get into a free speech debate.
No, this is not for politics.
This is just, it is what it is. It's a fact that's going to the direction that it's heading. Content moderation for this platform, what does it mean for brands? Yeah. It's tough to say. So I think it's kind of like it's a ship in a tide pool. It'll rock a little bit. Sometimes it'll rock heavier than others, or some boats will rock heavier than others. But eventually it will level out, and you'll just find your new normal within that platform. The negative, depending on your audience, if your audience is not a fan of this particular moderation movement, you could lose users on that platform, and then you have to reevaluate: is it worth spending your time to create tweets, to create content, to manage that on Twitter? If you're running ads too, maybe you pull the plug on your ads. Yeah.
But that's all part of your social strategy, though, right? Is your audience there? Do you know where they are? Do you know who you're talking to? But on that note, too, especially probably more on the ad section or the ad bent more than the organic side, is that if you're running ads, are you targeting in a way that your brand is showing up next to content, next to ideas that do not align with your brand?
Right.
Brand safety is, I think, probably a bigger topic, especially in paid placements and media buys. Some companies give it a lot more weight than others. In some cases, it might not be quite as important. But I think in this case, especially if, the conversations that are happening there are so conversely against what you're for, you probably don't want your brand to be there. And especially if your customers are of a certain mindset, that might make them pull away completely.
Yeah.
So then if you're losing your audience, so they're gone. And if you're losing the brands they're gone too. That actually pulls away a lot of the revenue stream.
A lot of value.
Think.
Yeah. I think it's only fair too to mention that it could easily go the other way as well. That could be a reason for more people to join the platform in support of more brands of a certain different mindset too, or of a different opinion.
Yeah.
So I think it's only fair to say that, that's why I say it's a rocking ship. It'll rock sometimes, it'll rock back, but eventually it will level out, and the platform or the brands who feel like they don't have a place on that platform, they'll leave, and they'll leave a void for other people who think that they should be there.
Right. One thing about Twitter, though, too, is that it has always been, there's a space for everything. It's not quite, I don't know, I was going to say it's not quite like TikTok where it's so easy to find your spaces, but it kind of is. It just feels, maybe it feels more ambiguous on Twitter. It's not quite as easy to find those spaces, but there is there's tax Twitter, right? There's all kinds of stuff.
And to Elon Musk's credit, I think he's explained it the best. It's basically a town square.
Yeah.
Where there's all these different conversations happening. They're all loud. Some are louder than others. But it's just, I think it's the best example of kind of an open forum where people can find their own lane in real time while still seeing kind of like the landscape of everything else too. So TikTok, you're really like in your lanes.
Right.
But Twitter's just open, and you can just find anything.
You can stumble on anything.
Yeah,
you can stumble on anything. And that just makes it something other. So,
so some changes in terms of like the actual content usage. An edit button has been kind of thrown around.
Everybody's been asking for that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like Twitter will lose its charm if it has an edit button?
I like that you don't. Well, there's concerns too that if you retweet something that maybe it's, I don't know, I'm not even going to make up something that what it says, but if you retweet something because you're in support of it and then somebody edits that, does that change?
Do you think that it's open for anybody to edit it? I would think just the author.
Well, so if I tweet something out, you retweet it because you agree with it. I go back and edit that original tweet to make you look like a jerk, maybe.
Or if it goes viral, and then you go and edit it to a different message. And you see on Twitter, if people go viral, they end up like pinning or like commenting, doing a thread. And so then they kind of like, go read my book or go do this. Which is cool. That. Yeah, good for you. You made it on Twitter. So you go.
You might remember this a little bit better than I do, but do you remember when Facebook links had that authentication issue? So now you have to get that domain verification.
Oh,
so you could,
yeah.
You used to be able to link to anything. You could add your own custom thumbnail. You could change the headline. So if I was saying you're going to Build-A-Bear workshop, but I was sending you to like, I don't know, a liquor store or something like that. So it sounds a little bit like it could be that sort of like authentication, content authentication thing.
And that's where, and that's kind of what happened with the search engines back in the early 2010s is it was so easy to manipulate what people were seeing and where they were being sent. So that's a good point.
That seems like a big one. I'm rooting against that one. I like that you can't edit.
Same.
So the most significant change that I can think of that's happened to Twitter, aside from the interest-based algorithm, is that character size doubled.
Oh, yeah.
And that was huge.
Yeah.
And I think oh my gosh, this is going to be embarrassing to get it wrong. I think it's 240 now.
280? Because it was 140 and now it's 280.
Oh gosh, that's embarrassing. Okay.
It's fine.
Anyways, if it goes any longer than that, which is something that I've seen him tweet recently, that he wants longer form content.
No.
That's just the other platforms, right?
Yes, right. Well, and that's the thing is like we talked about Reddit, and in so many ways, like Twitter could easily be like Reddit, and it's so much easier to find a community on Reddit because you got your subreddits and all that kind of stuff. And Twitter is just, again, it's a little bit more chaotic.
Yeah.
And you find it and you're there, but there's something with Twitter exists for a reason, right? Okay. So it is what it is. There's been talk about Twitter falling behind on the times and not keeping up with things like Facebook and Instagram and everything else. But if it wanted to be those things, it could be, right? Twitter has a purpose. And I think that the short conversation, being really tactful with your word thought, succinct. Let's put it that way. Being succinct with your thought process might be like, there's something to be said about that.
Yeah,
and I agree.
If you think about it in terms of like competitive landscape, like marketing for these platforms, differentiation is going to be the biggest thing that you can do.
Yeah.
And nobody does what Twitter can do.
Right.
And maybe it's bad, maybe it's good, but it is. There was only one. There's only one Twitter.
Agreed.
And like you said, if it wanted to recreate, they tried stories, didn't work out.
Remember Periscope? Remember they tried Periscope back in the day? Like they were actually kind of cutting edge of live video.
Yeah, and one thing that they, I haven't actually seen if there are going to be any changes to this, but spaces are very interesting.
Okay.
I've seen them like kind of stay around. It's kind of like the only update that Twitter's added that's stuck around for a long time. Yeah. And I see it being used kind of a lot, like not a lot of participants in there, but I see a lot of spaces, which is interesting.
I actually don't know too much about spaces, so I'll need to dig into that. But the other one that I was happy, like, they tried to do fleets, right? Everybody was trying to do story style content. I was so happy when they were like, nobody's using these. We're just going to get rid of them. Like, thanks, Twitter.
It was good for them to like learn that about the platform too. I think that may have also led them to, maybe we don't need to make a lot of changes. I mean, I'm sure that they had stakeholders who were like, we got to do this, we got to do that. Yeah. So credit to them for saying, this is what we are. Like, this is what makes us valuable. This is our vision. Let's stick to it.
Yeah. I think they could make some really quick and easy money if they made a better ad buying platform.
Oh my gosh.
How about that? Elon, if you're listening, and I know you probably are, please revisit that ad buying platform.
Let's end it on the ad discussion. So if you're spending $40 billion to buy a platform, I assume you're expecting to turn some money? Sort of profit.
Yeah.
And I think there are two big lanes that he can make that revenue. Ads, if he revamps the ad platform, which could be affected by the algorithm. And then maybe some sort of subscription model, pay to play, which they have Twitter Blue that they've kind of rolled out loosely.
Yeah.
I think maybe if they push that a little bit harder, leave some more like premium type of content behind those paid, that paywall. Ads platform we've used it before.
Begrudgingly.
It's just not the most effective currently. And
you could get just like from what people are saying, and like, I don't know, you could probably get so much more data.
Right. And that's the thing is it's more valuable organically. Like you can just learn, like you said, it's almost a listening platform on its own.
It is. That's like really the only effective listening platform. Yeah. Essentially. Yeah. Man, now I think I'm going on a crusade. Update the Twitter. I'm going to start this. We're going to start a Twitter revolution. We're going to start a hashtag. We're going to get Elon Musk's attention. We're going to do this. It's going to happen.
There's no downside for him. Like, just, hey, would you like to make more money?
Right.
Like, do
would you like
ads
to
better.
make more money from a social marketer? Please update your ad buying platform. Please and thank you.
I wish I had more. Maybe we can do an episode about ad platforms, like which one would be best. Because I would love to learn a little bit more about who is using Twitter ads and why.
Yeah.
And then maybe look ahead in like 5 years and say, oh, this has changed or this has shifted.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
that's it. That's the most important things that I feel like for marketers to know about this event.
Yeah.
We can't change it. I mean, we can only adapt. That's what we do as social media marketers. I think a big point too, this is a large corporation. There's a lot of moving pieces. Change is not going to happen overnight.
Exactly
There is no need to panic or freak out. I would say start thinking about what we've just talked about. Start thinking about ways you can work that into your strategy.
Yep.
Just be prepared for it. Don't run for the hills right now. Stay the course. If your audience is on Twitter, they'll be on Twitter tomorrow. They'll be on Twitter next week.
Right.
They'll be on Twitter next month.
Will they be there in 5 years? Who knows? But, that's why you have a social team too to help you stay on top of this and know what impact it will be on your brand. So, yeah. Cool. So this week, Kyle, what are you digging?
What am I digging? Let's see. I got a new video game. It's old. Okay. So it was like on sale. So that's why I got it. But one of my favorite games I ever played was The Last of Us, the first part. Okay. Zombie apocalypse.
Oh, okay.
Deal. Yes. So much fun. Okay. Oh my gosh, was it a decade ago? Oh, that makes me feel old. It's been about a decade. Okay. But they made a part 2 that just started playing recently because it was on major sale. Nice. You want me to play your video game? Put it on sale. That's all I'm saying. What about you? What are you digging?
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to be a nerd, but I am digging CrossFit this week, which is okay. I hate talking about it. I don't want to be that person. I know. Shut up. But like usually like some weeks are super stressful and like CrossFit is a stressful workout. And then there's other weeks where it's like, okay, this is great. I'm feeling it. But I had a coach tell me a couple weeks ago, he's like, you don't like to go to the dark place when you're working out, do you? And I'm like, no. Like,
what is the dark place?
The dark place. It's like, it's probably the wall when you're running where you just don't want to like push past that, like, just not going to go there. I don't want to put that much effort. So I've been kind of trying to like dip a toe into the dark place and like try to work a little harder. And it's miserable. It
feels so much good
when you're done. It's like, oh,
I did that. I can do that.
Yeah. It's kind of this weird like endorphin rush and I'm here for that. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, don't. Yeah.
I'm trying not to go too far into. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So at any rate, thank you so much for listening to the 9-8 Central podcast. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. We're not quite so active.
We're working on a strategy. If we're being honest, we're working on a strategy to bring our Twitter back to life.
Yes. We are on Instagram. We're very active there. Go check us out. And on LinkedIn too. And then of course, find us at 98c.org or 98c.tv. And then leave us a rate and a review and, just tell us that you like the show and hopefully you learned something today. So.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah,
thanks guys. Bye. It's fine. We're just going rogue today.
All right. I like it.
I've like watched these and I'm like, dear Lord, girl, you just fidget all the time.
At least you can understand what you're saying. I'm just here mumbling the whole time.
When you say you're ready, does that mean you're recording? Okay, great. Sweet.